All right, let's get right into it. We're breaking down a really fascinating analysis of the UFC called Perishable Labor, Durable Platform. And this isn't about opinions. It's a deep dive into the business structure, and it's all based on hard numbers, audited financials, court records, and peer-reviewed studies.
And everything really kicks off with this one question. Think about it for a second. A fighter lands that perfect knockout, they win the championship, but years later, who actually owns the rights to that moment? That's the real tension we're going to explore here, based on what this report found.
So the report gives this tension a name, and it's a powerful one. Perishable labor, durable platform. It's pretty simple when you break it down. A fighter's body, their ability to compete, it has an expiration date. That's the perishable part. But the platform that promotes them, well, its value just keeps growing for decades.
Now, to really understand this imbalance, you first have to get a sense of just how massive the platform is. So let's take a look at the financials. And remember, all of this comes directly from TKO Group Holdings' own audited public filings.
For fiscal year 2025, the UFC segment is projected to pull in $1.5 billion in revenue. That's billion with a B. It's a huge number, and it sets the stage for everything else.
But revenue is one thing, profitability is another, and this is where it gets really interesting. A 57% adjusted EBITDA margin. All that really means is that this is an incredibly efficient, incredibly profitable business model they've got running.
And if you want to see the durable part of the platform in action, here it is. A $7.7 billion media deal, locked in for 7 years. That's guaranteed cash flow that has nothing to do with whether one particular fighter wins or loses.
Okay, so we've seen the scale, but how does this structure actually work? Well, the analysis points to a few key mechanisms that create and, maintain this whole imbalance between the fighter and the platform.
The first one is something the report calls time horizon asymmetry. It's a really simple but powerful idea. A fighter's career at the top might only be 5, maybe 10 years if they're lucky. The institution, on the other hand, is thinking in terms of decades. Their clocks are just set to completely different speeds.
Next up, there's the substitution logic. You see, the whole system is built with this incredibly deep roster and a constant pipeline of fresh talent, like the Contender Series. What that means is that any single fighter, even a massive star, is basically replaceable. And, well, that naturally limits how much bargaining power they have.
And this quote right here, wow, it's a perfect example of what the analysis calls narrative stabilization. It's all about controlling the public story, the idea that you're the only game in town. This line from Dana White, which was actually entered into a court record, is held up in the report as Exhibit A of that strategy.
And then you've got archive monetization. This one's huge. When a fighter hangs up the gloves, their ability to earn money from fighting is over. It's done. But all that footage of them, their greatest hits, that becomes a permanent asset for the platform, something they can make money off of forever. So, you put all those mechanisms together, and what do you get? What are the actual tangible results? The report lays out some very clear, documented outcomes. This right here is probably the most eye-popping slide in the entire analysis. It compares how much of the total revenue goes to the athletes. So in the big US sports leagues like the NFL or NBA, it's right around 50%. For the UFC, an estimate that came out of antitrust litigation puts the number somewhere between 13 and 20%. Now, it's really important to add this piece of context, which the report is very careful to do. This is not a perfect apples-to-apples comparison, because how each sport defines revenue is a little different. The point here is to show a difference in the fundamental structure, not to give an exact equivalent number.
And beyond the money, there's the biological cost. The report points to a major study from the Cleveland Clinic that documents serious long-term neurological damage in retired fighters. But here's the crucial part. According to TKO's own audited financials, there are zero provisions for pensions or long-term medical care. All of those costs, the real price of that perishable labor, they fall 100% on the fighter.
This diagram from the report does a great job of pulling it all together. See, over on the left, that's the fighter labor. That's the input. The platform then packages it up, turns it into a product, and captures all that value in these different revenue streams. But look down at the bottom. See how the biological costs are separated? They don't go with the revenue. They stay entirely with the fighter. So, after seeing this whole structure laid out, you have to wonder, could anything actually change it? Well, the analysis does identify 3 potential things that could shift the balance.
And here are the 3 big ones. First, there's ongoing antitrust litigation.
Second, you could have government regulation step in and reclassify fighters as employees instead of independent contractors. And third, there's collective action. Basically, the fighters forming a union.
But, and this is a big but, the report ends on a pretty sober note here. It says that, as of right now, none of these potential game changers are anywhere close to actually happening in a way that would fundamentally change the system.
And that brings us right back to where we started, to that central question. It's really the big takeaway from this whole analysis. If the fighter's labor is perishable, but the platform that sells it is durable, what's the right balance? What's the fair price for that moment of glory? It's a tough question, and it's one that really gets to the heart of the modern sports world. Definitely something to think about.